Yay! Hello, everybody. Welcome to this evening's episode 3 of KnitTV. I am delighted to be here with you guys today. If you are joining me, do let me know. I think we've worked out the sound and we've also worked out everything else that goes with it, including the camera, all going well, and the captions, which are also on. So I'm thrilled to be here with you guys this evening. Today we're going to do the usual as well. So we're going to have what's on my needles. I'm going to talk about what's going on around the community that I could find. We're kind of quiet. I think we're coming into that kind of quiet period where it's like May to the end of August. Everybody kind of goes, oh, it's warm. And then I'm going to talk about tonight's knitting topic, which is very dry, but very important. It is reverse all shaping. So we've been talking about patterns. I'm going to do one more. So this is reverse all shaping. And after that, then I'm going to see, because I think I'm boring myself. So next week, I might just go back to doing some techniques so I could actually get some knitting and some needles out. So we'll see about that when we come to the end. And then I have questions as well. So do let me know if you have any knitting questions, because I haven't had a chance to pop them up on screen yet, but I can, so I'm very excited about that. So my dears, let's move, and we're gonna shimmy tonight. Yeah, because we are. I would like to get these down to 30 minutes. I think 30 minutes of me is plenty on a Thursday evening. So tonight on my needles, very exciting. I have to admit, there has been very little progress since last week because I am knitting a sample for a designer, which is a secret. Well, it's obviously, they're not revealed until the patterns come out, but I have to say it's been amazing. It's such a great pattern. I have just loved it, but I can't share it. I've knitted about, about 3, 2, 3, 9, I'm about maybe 500 meters into it, on a relatively heavyweight yarn. So about 500 meters in, nearly there. Actually, maybe I'm not nearly there if I'm weighing the yarn like that. So I'm pretty far into it. So I can't share it, but I have done tiniest amount of knitting. Actually, I did some of this here. So I am on the heel of my second sock. So that's the Sock Society sock. I'll be pleased with this, though, to be fair, if I get this finished by the time the second sock comes out, which I think is probably all I'm going to hope for right now. So that is my sock. I still love this pattern. I want to put this into all the things. I think that's the thing, when you see a pattern, you're like, oh, show me all the things. Then I've been carrying, this is a cast on and waiting. I've been carrying this around me to cast it on, but I'm trying to keep myself to 2 pairs of socks. I know that's stupid, isn't it? These weird rules we make ourselves, but I want to cast it on, and I've been like humming and hawing, but I'll get there. I'll be carrying it around, and then I've only done a tiny bit of the leg on this. So I think I was here last week, and I'm only here. The plan was to do more knitting over the weekend. Unfortunately, Simon did himself a little mischief, and we had to go to urgent care. But actually, I only got this much done in urgent care because our local urgent care, which is Ilkeston Community Hospital, amazing. We were in and out in an hour. And then we went back on Tuesday, and I was all ready to do some more knitting, and we were in and out in like 40 minutes. So it was amazing. But no sock knitting, which is a great sign, but who doesn't want some sock knitting? But those are my main things. Plus, obviously, oh, thank you, my dear. Isn't it a really fun sock? It's a self-striping. I'm going to review all of the sock yarns that I've been knitting recently. That's going to be coming up in an episode soon. I have one. I think I have 5 commercial sock yarns that I've been knitting with, and I'm going to show you them all so I can tell you. This one, really nice, kind of heavyweight. Can't wait to recommend it because I think it's a nice, really good price as well. I think it's King Cole. This yarn, well, it looks really nice. I tell you, it has been a splitty devil. And I have to say, there have been a few times when I'm like, this isn't on, my friend. Might be the pattern, might be the needle selection as well, but it's a bit splitty. Anyway, that's for a later episode. And the very good news is I'm going to be casting on these together very soon. Look at these beautiful, beautiful yarns. I would like to say a big thank you for the Love of Yarn, for this yarn support, because I have a brand new, well, it's not a brand new, it's a remake of one of the existing Knit School classes, because I have come to the conclusion that people are still very much afraid of brioche. And while I have a masterclass, I think there's something missing in the middle. Just like a teeny tiny workshop with a few little teeny tiny tutorials to get people going, just to kind of, I think that's what it is. I'm going to put these into my Simply the Simplest Cowl, supported by Lisa, which is awesome, at For the Love of Yarn. So aren't they amazing together? Can't wait to put those in. So good. There's a tutorial coming up. It'll be here on YouTube. What's it called? Well, will it? It might not be. It might be. We'll see. I'm trying to decide. But they're what I'm going to be casting on at some point, hopefully over the next week, but we shall see. So yeah, that's what's on my needles. Talking too quickly. I'm breathing. I think it's because there's so little on my needles. But I have to say, inspired by the sample knit I'm doing at the moment, I have a number. I'm not going to talk about the techniques either because it'll give it away. I want to go back and look at that technique again. It's a technique actually that's coming up in Knit School at the start of next year. I know I'm planning that far out at the moment. And I have to say, so the way I look at it is I'm here to teach you all those kind of techniques that you don't know about and kind of get you started. And then there are experts in all of those who are really in-depth experts in each area. They kind of people specialize, like I think of socks as mine, and possibly brioche a little bit. But then there are people whose in-depth knowledge is phenomenal. So knitting the sample has taught me things that I didn't even know existed, including, and I'll do this next week, a knit front and back with all fairies, so the KFB, a knit back and front. I'd never done one. I've knit, I don't know how many patterns, hundreds of patterns maybe, and I've never seen a knit back and front before. So that's quite fun. I'm going to talk about that next week though. So that's what's on my needles. Very dull. I need to do more exciting knits, but they're coming once the sample is over. It is so beautiful. I wish I could share it, but I'll share it when it comes out. Then, around the community, let me see. Leeds Wool Fest is coming up. It's the next show. It's early June, so that's in Leeds, I believe. So keep an eye out for that. Do search Leeds Wool Fest. I think it's on this year. It's hard to know because there has been sadly a few casualties of COVID in terms of shows. So there's a few shows that are taking a break this year and that might not be back. So like we've no Yarning in the summer. There's no Wool Monty. And I'm not saying they won't come back or anything, but I think that's a reflection partly on the fact that people are, people have other lives, sadly, but also that it's a lot of work. Like I can't, as having vended at shows, I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like to organize one. I had a really kind invite by a group of lovely people recently to be involved in one, and I had to decline. I was like, I would love to, but I must say no. Yeah, I know. You're like, how did I resist that? Easier than you would think. But that's the shows that are kind of coming up. We're also into summer season of knits. I don't know if you guys have seen this month's Knitter, but there's some lovely stuff in it. I get the Knitter because my mother-in-law sends me a lovely copy of it, which is very generous. So I get a copy of the Knitter and Brona, Miss Kelly, who some of you will know because she's been at Knit School with me, and she's also been on some of our lives and stuff that we've done before. She's got a beautiful summer t-shirt top in it as well. There's those lovely summery tops in it at the moment. So yeah, have a look at those. What else is going on? So we've had, so some of you will have seen the Stitches group in the US who run Stitches West and Stitches East. I think they've just gone into administration, which is a bit of a shame. It does kind of highlight that it's a tough enough time in the industry at the moment, kind of even for big players who would have a big following and running massive shows. That's not to be a downer. It's the reality of the way things are at the moment. I think knitting is one of those things where a lot of people bought a lot of great yarn during the pandemic, and you can buy yarn a lot quicker than you can knit it. So I think a lot of people are just knitting at the moment, which is super. But it does mean that things have slowed a small bit, I think, in the industry. We're losing a few people because of that. But also I think people want to change as well. So there's positive and negative kind of losses to the industry as well. We have somebody coming back. So Nora George Arns is back. And I will tell you something. I'm trying to think. Tracy. There we go. Tracy. Nora George is coming back. I don't know her particularly well. I've met her a few times. She's very nice. She does beautiful yarns. And I believe she is back with a brand new logo. I saw it on Instagram earlier today. So she is coming back. So welcome back, Tracy. You have lovely yarns. And for the love of yarn, launching their brand new site, I think in June. So that's Lisa. I'm going to see Lisa actually in a couple of weeks' time, which is very exciting, in her studio. So she's launching her brand new site, and she also has a very exciting, what did she call it? I think it's the Knit Chronicles coming up. So it's her brand new club, and she's got that launching as well. So you can check her out at For the Love of Yarn. I think that's most of the news that I've seen. There's been a bit of snark. I saw some snark on Twitter, and I had to go back to Twitter recently, so they needed me to be on it. On Twitter and on Craft Snark about the Knit Note crowdfunder. People are like, knitwear designers lose out if there's licensing, if it's a membership. Two things about that. So actually maybe three things. One, I'd like to know how you feel about seeing people have those conversations. Kind of if you're just, like, if you're a member of the knitting community and you're part of the industry part, like you work in it, that's one thing. But if you're just a customer, what do you think about that? What do you think about, some people like, Yarnistry, who is Emma, I really love her stuff. She's quite forthright about talking about consumer rights, and I think it's really important to protect yourself. But on the other side, we have dyers who are not happy with her because she's talking about something where she's putting doubt in people's minds about buying yarn calendars from people who are reputable. And there's that kind of balance, and I think we can have a nice discussion in the middle without it being snarky. I think there's something to be said about wanting people to be protected. And do you want the people you buy stuff from to be concerned about your rights, or do you want us to just do our best to stay in business and not talk about your rights, but make sure you get your advent calendars? It strikes me as an interesting thing, and I don't know which way I lean in it. I lean on consumers knowing their rights, really important, but I also recognize that advent calendars need you to buy them early so dyers know. I think it's nice to see the conversation, but I'm not sure I like the snark that goes with it, because I think that we can get along for those things. There's certain things that are like red lines for everybody, but I think with those nice kind of friendly conversations are better for me anyway. I think I like to keep things kind of positive anyway. Maybe I'm just silly, but anyway. Then the other thing is about the knit note licensing for patterns, an interesting one, but something that I feel about this is that if you are a knitwear designer and you want to be involved in it and you are happy with the terms and conditions that the app is giving you, then there's no reason why it wouldn't work for designers. If you are a designer and your patterns are being used without your permission, totally different subject. And I think we miss the nuance in the discussion there, that as adults and business people, people can do what they want with their patterns, obviously with a balance against harming the industry. And I know people are falling out of love with subscriptions a little bit, but don't write them all off. Definitely don't write them in school off. Obviously you should review what subscriptions you have for all kinds of I do it regularly with my business. I'm like, do I really need that? No, probably not. But don't give up on the joyful ones. But for KnitNote, we haven't seen their crowdfunder yet, but do have a look when it comes out. I'm interested to see, because I know that part of me needs a nap for knit school as well. And I'm kind of watching from the sidelines. I'm not going to do a crowdfunder, I don't think. Crowdfunders, I find them unnerving. I feel like they're a popularity contest, and I don't want to have to see how popular I am in case nobody likes me. So two reasons. One, I'm not sure. Crowdfunders not the way I fund my business. That's fine. And the second is I don't think I'm popular enough. I see people raising like $50,000, and I'm like, my followers, I love them. Followers, I hate followers. People who support my business are amazing, but I don't know if I have I don't know if anybody wants to give me 50 grand. Anyway, that's not a question. So I'm watching the KnitNote thing with interest, because it's kind of just an interesting thing. I'd love to know how you feel about those things, when it's not all fluffy and yarn and lovely things. That's why I'm doing it around the knitting community, so I was just kind of just bringing a few bits and pieces. So that's kind of it. What else? Ooh, teeny tiny quick review I have been using. So a lot of people, I am not a Chow user. It doesn't give me the great tension, but I know people love their cables. But these are the green mindful needles. I'll tell you, they're not that mindful, but they're lovely. If you are a Knit Pro user, these cables are lovely and they swivel. You can see I'm moving my hands and they're swiveling. It's not very easy to demonstrate the swiveliness of them, but they are swivelly. And they were much better. They're much better in terms of the shape they hold. A bit more like the Chow. Obviously, these things go around the industry. So yeah, just a little teeny tiny thing. That's if you haven't tried them, they're very nice. If you're a dedicated Knit Pro user, like I kind of am myself. That's it. Now, ready next, my dears? Are you ready? Knitting chat. Dun, dun, dun. This is pretty dry. I can be honest. I think I'm boring myself at this stage. But so really, what the purpose of this is to say this. You may find this in patterns. And if you do, come back to this video and then maybe work through it. I'm going to work through an example now, but I'm aware that it's all very boring. No matter how exciting you try to make things about certain technical things are a bit dull. But we're going to try and do my best. I'm going to put my hair back now because I'm going to show you what I'm talking about as I do it. So the tech may let me down. Let's see what we got. I have a little tiny thing here. Yes. Oh, you should see me at the bottom right hand corner. Yes, I'm going to turn off the name chat now so we can hide that so you can see me. Hello, everybody. I wonder, can I make myself bigger? I don't think I can. So What I have here is, this is you'll see it's a 64-page document up here, so exciting, that I wrote ages ago called Pattern Reading. It's in my Learn to Knit class. It's for people who want to plow through it. There is a whole video of me talking about this for like 2 hours, and I think it's probably the dullest thing I've ever done, but it's so important. Anyway, so what we're talking about tonight is reverse awl shaping. So you see this particularly around necklines and things like that. So where you are doing something, so say I'm demonstrating on myself. So I've knit my body, I'm knitting up, and I'm coming to say, this isn't the right sweater. If I had a V-neck here, so imagine I have a V-neck here. When you're knitting a V-neck sweater and you're knitting the front particularly, although it can apply to the back, as you sometimes have a lower piece in your neckline for the back as well. We'll talk mainly about the fronts. You will do exactly the same on this side. So when you're coming up along and shaping your armhole and your neckline, you're going to be doing the reverse of that on the other side. And that's essentially what the instructions are. So you get instructions for one side, but you don't get instructions for the other. So it'll tell you how to shape this side, and then it'll say reverse awl shaping. So what they're saying is, every single instruction you saw on this side, actually, I'm going to bring myself up a little bit bigger. Watch this magic. Ta-da! So what it's saying is that everything you do on this side, and I'm mirrored, so I'm just going to try and not mirror myself. So everything you do here, you're going to do here. It gives you the full instructions on one side, and then it says reverse awl shaping. So what it means is, on this, everything you did here, take it and essentially reverse it onto this side. It's not, so part of me thinks it's a little bit lazy, but then part of me thinks that it's an efficient use of paper. And it kind of dates back, I think, a little bit to when you had a lot of patterns coming out in magazines. They were very short, and it was a shorthand way of doing it. With digital patterns, people have a lot more space, so it's not quite as important as it used to be. But you still see it in patterns, particularly printed ones or books, where they have, they're trying to limit the amount of paper, because the more paper, the less profitable the book is. And that's a commercial reality. I know it's boring, isn't it? But it's kind of interesting too. I find it fascinating, but that'll be just me. So that's the idea behind it. Generally, where you're doing two things and they're going to be the same. You sometimes see a total cheat. You might see a right and a left front all the way down to the bottom. It'll be just like, do the left front, and then it's the other one matching and reversed. And you think, that's a lot. I think that really is a bit of a cheat. But you will see as well in some patterns, you'll see knit from the cast on to the thing to like a star. So it'll give you a whole repeat, and then it'll tell you to match the shaping. So it's a lot shorter, but it depends on how you kind of feel about it. So let's have a quick look at what that looks like then. So this example is, all I'm doing is I'm shaping the front neck. I haven't added a sleeve shaping to this to make it a little bit less complicated. And I'm going to just walk you very quickly through the steps so that you know that this is an available kind of thing to come back to, because if I go through it line by line, you will all be asleep. So basically, here I'm knitting on my right side, so I have the right side of my knitting facing me, which means that when I turn, so with my right side facing, visualize this with me, your right side of the knitting, the one that's going to face out, is looking at you. If I'm knitting in from the right hand side and I knit in 29 stitches, and then I turn it around, I'm actually knitting the left front. I know, knitting sometimes, but when they talk about fronts, it's the left front. So this is the one I'm actually shaping on this one. So what I'm doing is I'm essentially knitting in 29 stitches, and then I'm turning my work. I'm casting off 4 stitches, purling back to the outside. And then for the next 7 rows, I'm decreasing 1 stitch. So I go 1 row, decrease, decrease, and then another row, back in, decrease, next row, decrease. So you're decreasing 7 stitches for the next 7 rows, and then you're following 10 rows until you have 15 stitches. So I have quite sharp decreases, and then I have another sort of set of every following 6th row and the 10th row. So there's 2 more decreases in there. We won't worry too much about what they are. We'll just kind of talk about them. So basically what I've done is I've knit up all along here, and then for the rest of it, it says knit 5 rows. Knit my 5 rows, I have 15 stitches at the top, and then I cast them off. So I then rejoin my yarn here, so at the center front, I knit and I cast off 9 stitches at the front. And then what it says is complete to match the first side of the neck, reversing awl shaping. So there's no more instructions for here. You just need to make it look like this. And this is why people don't like it, because it's like, what am I supposed to do with that? And particularly if you are not, it might be easy to think, oh, right, okay, so I need to now cast off 4 stitches, purl it, knit in, and it takes a little bit of a mind bend. But what I do when I do mine, let me just move down and I'm going to show you. I'm going to flick very quickly through these. The first thing I do is I work out how many rows are there that I'm working over. So I will write out each line of my pattern that I'm doing, and I will then work out how many rows I'm actually knitting. That's the first thing I do. And I think that breaking it down into rows means that you then know, okay, right, I have an idea now of how much knitting I'm actually doing. And then that's a start, because then you can do it without worrying about the shaping. And then you can also add into that, where are you decreasing the stitches in that, in this pattern you have. So what you'll see here on the column on the left, I have the first line, which is knit 29 stitches and then turn. It's one row. There are no stitches decreased as part of that. The next row is cast off 4 stitches and then purl to the end. That's one row casting off 4 stitches. And I think that's quite useful as well. Then I'm decreasing 1 stitch at the neck edge for every 7 rows. That's 7 rows decreased. And then I have 7 stitches decreased as well, and it gives me my 18. And then it's the following alternate row. That's 2 rows, because I have the next row and the alternate row. Alternate rows we'll talk about again, I'm sure. And then you're decreasing just 1 stitch, following 6th row. And then what you're counting is so the 6th row is 6 rows. So it's 5 plain rows and a decrease. And then the following 10 rows is 10 rows and 9, and the 10th row where you're decreasing. And then you have obviously the 5 stitches, the 5 rows that you're knitting at the end as well, that you knit straight. So you'll see that overall my shaping is taking place over the number of rows that I have there. I'm going to quickly add those up to 27 rows plus the 5. Now, it might take you, I'm going through this quite quickly. Do come back to it if you want, kind of pause the video and have a look through it as well. But you can see that when you break down, and then actually sometimes if you find a pattern complicated anyway, and you're not reversing all shaping, it can be really useful to bring it down to the rows anyway, because then it's really clear, because you can see exactly how many rows you should be knitting. You can do the calculations on them. And honestly, Excel is your great friend for this. So that's the first thing I do. Then I'm asking, where am I decreasing on? So, and how am I decreasing? So I'm looking at, have I done, is that just, let me just check that I, yes. So it doesn't actually tell me in this pattern either how to decrease. So I've actually decided that I'm going to do knit 2s together for whatever reason I decided, and purl 2 togethers. Now the pattern may tell you, we'll talk about the leaning and left leaning and bits of the things. So what I do then is I go through them and I work out, is it the right side or the wrong side that I'm decreasing on? And you'll see that it can be varied. And then I work out what those decreases look like. So I know that I'm going to knit to the last 3 stitches, knit 2 together, knit 1, and then I'm going to turn it, purl 1, purl 2 together, and then purl to the end in that first set. And then I'm going to match those all the way up along. So that tells you what you're going to decrease as. So you get to plan your decreases. So now you really know, how many rows am I doing, how many are plain, how many are decreasing, and what decreases am I using. So you now have quite a good piece of work done. Then I just want to show you how you reverse it. So you can then, your knitting will look like, this is what it looks like once you've done that. You've 9 center stitches, you've your shaped left side, and you've 29 stitches ready to work for your right side. So drawing it out like that is really helpful as well. I find drawing my necklines when I'm doing shaping really useful as well, because I can see it a lot better when I draw it out. And then A is the direction of knitting. So you can see that I'm knitting across, once I've done my last, I'll be picking it up at the right side facing, because that's where I left it last time. And then you're casting off your 9, and then you're going to be doing it's actually casting off 9 because it's this way. And then I'm going to be doing my right side. And then you then have your stitches, and you can then so then you have, I'm not going to talk through this. You can then work out how you're going to do this on the other side. So you go from each side. So this is my left side. So that's what I have in the center. And then I write out the equivalent, so my decreased rows on my right side. So in this one, I have cast off 4 stitches and purl to the end. This time, because I'm going to be with the other side, I cast off 4 and I knit to the end. And then I'm going to purl to the end and do my 3 stitches and knit to the last 3 stitches. And that's how they're reversed. So you can see that because I'm on the right side and the wrong side, I'm matching them off and decreasing to match as I go. And it takes a little bit of a mind bend, but if you draw it out and you think, this is what I've done, this is the equivalent on the other side. You'll also get leaning decreases. You can use slip knits, knit 2s together, purl 2. We're going to cover that next week though, around leaning decreases. But what I'm really trying to say is that if you come to a situation where you're a bit stuck, write out all of the things that you're doing on one side and then you'll be able to match them up on the other side by going, right, I need an equivalent row of this, what is it? You'll see here though, the first one is knit 29 stitches and turn, and then I exclude that row on the other side. It does mean that at some point I'm going to have to knit another row on the other side. Now I could the reason I've excluded it is because if you look at, and this is a decision then that you get to make for yourself. If I were to work across and I was going to say I knit all the way across that row the same way that I had done on the right side, I would then turn my work and I would need to purl in, and I would have 4 stitches I needed to do something with at the other side. And it's not like you're going to cast off 4 stitches at the end of a row. So that's why I decided that I wouldn't knit across that row. I would cast off my 4 and knit to end, and then somewhere along the way you'll probably pick up that extra row to balance them out, or you won't. It'll just get eaten up. And if you have a look at shaping that's done like that, you'll see that there's always kind of a balancing row. If you're working across or you're picking up somewhere, there'll always be something. So do have a look at that, particularly where you're casting off rather than knitting or purling two together. The balance is slightly different. And that's actually why I use the cast off in this example. So things I needed to decide. So there you go. My 2 together is left leaning. My slip slip knit is right leaning. We're going to talk about leaning decreases and the way they are. But again, when you're reversing all shaping, you do want to think about how they lean. And if you're reversing all increasing, it won't be the same. So the key really is how many rows, what sides am I increasing and decreasing in, and what rows do I increase, what rows do I exclude, how do I make the match as well as I can, because nothing is perfectly mirrored in knitting when you're doing particularly if you have a 1 row and you have a half row and little bits like that. And then we move on to at the same time, but I'm going to spare you tonight something to watch for. I'm going to mention it here though, is when you are reversing all shaping, I've done a nice simple version so that you can go back and have a look at it. But normally, because this is happening with the armhole and the neckline, you will see at the same time as well. So that's another complexity. So do make sure that you look at kind of if there isn't at the same time as well, you're going to have to map out what's happening on my neckline side and my arm side. And then you're going to have to mirror those across to the other side. So you have neckline and arm as well. Something to call out. Hopefully you won't see it very often. This is really just more talking about it so that you are aware that it is a thing that happens to good knitters. So yes, my dears, that is just a whistle stop tour. I'm going to turn that off and hopefully pop up. Ta-da! Sorry, it's like magic to me. I love it. I know, it's silly. So yeah, that is reverse all shaping. I know that's a whistle stop, but I think the most important thing to take away is that it happens in patterns. You may see it, and B, don't panic, because you can just work it out line by line as well. And I always find a nice piece of paper drawn out. And I know, and to be fair, I think I don't know, actually I should this is anecdotally, many of us use checklists anyway. So it's just another more detailed checklist when you're doing it. I promise, I do. I promise not to put reverse all shaping in my patterns where possible. Let me see. Am I doing increases on the right side on one and then on the wrong side for the second side? For the decreases, yes, I believe I am. Let me have a quick peep. Yes. So you're doing it. So yes, you are. So let me share this again. Sorry, this is the question I'm answering at the moment. Ta-da! So let me show you that. So yeah, here they are on the, so for the, on some of them, you're doing them on the right side and the wrong side, but on the alternate rows, you're going to be doing them on the wrong side. So you do them at the neck edge on the wrong side. Now, there's no reason why you couldn't do them on the right side if you wanted to as well. But they look, if you're using leaning decreases, they look about the same regardless. You could do them on the right side and move everything up and down a row as well if you wanted to. So you could do the following sort of 5th row or the following 7th row if you wanted to keep it on the right side, and then balance that out with the 10th row. There's a lot of balancing you could do as long as you have them so that's essentially what you're doing. Making sure that you are doing it well. I actually think of it as kind of approximately the same. Have a look at some of the patterns where you get the shaping for both and you'll kind of see how they're balanced. This is just an example as well to kind of show you how you would work them out. So this actually isn't a real sweater. Because I was trying to write reverse shaping and I was like, I don't want to reverse the shaping. I want to write the full shaping and test it. But yeah, it's arbitrary. But yeah, you can do them on one side and then on the other side, the right and wrong side of the sweater. Or you can do them on the same, depending on where that one, I think of it as a kind of a lurking row goes. So, does anyone have any questions about either this, any more questions about this, or about knitting generally? I'm trying to think. So, what have I been? Have I been learning? Yes, I have. I have learned quite a lot this week. And it has definitely been a really useful reminder to me that I need to knit more advanced patterns by some of our really so do I don't like to consider myself an expert, although I think of myself as a very advanced knitter. I can pick up pretty much anything and knit it, but I don't think of myself as like an in-depth to the very nth degree of any particular skill, like I was saying, maybe for socks and stuff. But it does remind me that I need to knit more from who I would consider to be like the absolute pinnacle of each area. So for example, with brioche, I need to knit more of Nancy Marchand's patterns. If I want to do some more colour work knitting, I need to look at some maybe KnitTV's, maybe some Norwegian stuff, some Selbu, wrong way, Selbu mittens. I reversed it so that you could see the knit school would be the right way around tonight. And it reminded me that I love to work out how to teach things. That's kind of my I hope I do it well. I'm not going to ask. I like to teach things to a point and then kind of set people off to find more adventurous people. But I realized recently that because I've been doing a lot of teaching, I have not done a lot of really advanced knitting myself. So I think it's time to do a little bit of that as well. So I'm really looking forward to a summer of going through and exploring some of the fabulous books that I have here behind me that I haven't had enough time to look at recently. So how about anybody else? Any questions, my dears? We're nearly under the half an hour now, so I'm gonna close off. Next week, I'm actually going to show you what I mean when I mean leaning increases and decreases. We'll start with increases. And if I have time, I'll do both. So we'll look at making one right, making one left, what difference it makes in the fabric. Other increases leaning, the left and right leaning. When you pick them up from underneath, what are they? Right-leaning increases? They're right-leaning lifted increases or left-leaning lifted increases. Yeah, I'll do that too because they're really neat and they're nice and they look lovely. And I thought it'll be less boring than a PowerPoint or just me talking at you because I'm done talking. I'm tired of looking at myself. So that's it, my dears. If you are a Knit School member, I will see you at 8 o'clock over on Zoom for a Knit Natter. And if you are not a Knit School member, why not? You'd never know. Our third birthday is coming up soon. There might be like a sneaky opening that people who've been waiting can sneak in. We'll see. This will be 3 though. Very excited. Actually, that'll be probably next time I'm talking to you guys. So that's it. Have a lovely evening. I hope you have lots of knitting planned and I will see you all really soon. Take care, guys.